Did you hear that? That was right here beside us. Whoa.
From coming across some shocking clues in the middle of the forest as they pushed on with the search for this legendary creature to an encounter that proved to be too close for comfort, here's how the US government shut down Expedition Bigfoot after they found it. Looking back through the sands of time, it may become clear that we need to accept that the search for the legendary cryptid named Bigfoot is one that may go on forever if we do not handle this search with care. Look at it. It is believed that we have been trying to prove that this creature is real for some centuries now. Although some people just happen to have encounters with this supposed giant of a creature, we have never come up with concrete proof that this hairy bipedal creature is wandering through the woods and forest found in America. All we have to show for the existence of this creature is either doubtful stories or accounts of an encounter with this creature, or some photos or videos that are just too unacceptable as proof of this creature's existence. To be honest, you can't really expect people to ignore that such photos or videos may be too blurry or unclear to take seriously. The frightening venture that is the search for Bigfoot. That being said, this current generation is not giving up. People like the members of the Expedition Bigfoot team have taken it upon themselves to search for this legendary cryptid. For years now, they have made use of all the resources at their disposal to do all they can to bring this search to an end. As such, it should come as no surprise that they would eventually make a discovery that would not only add more context to the search for this creature, but would also leave them shaken to their very core. In fact, this shocking discovery would even lead to a sudden halt in the production of the show, as several members of the team had to come to terms with what they had just experienced. Not only that, even the fans were left shaken by this experience.
Oh, wait, look. Right above it. Holy crap. What in the heck is that? It's big.
As the team called off their search for the time being, it must have made them feel very disappointed when they looked at the fact that they had actually been on a promising lead. Alas, this promising lead did not lead them to Bigfoot. Instead, it led them to the very thing that would bring the filming of the show to an end. This takes us to how intense this search for the legendary cryptid must have been when it was still in its full force. The members of the team, filled with researchers, survival experts, primatologists, and cryptozoologists, made use of all the state-of-the-art technologies and equipment, such as thermal cameras, motion sensors, and drones, just so that they can trace this creature to where it may be hiding. If they didn't get that, at the very least, these equipment would give them the data that they need to eventually track this fabled creature down. What is interesting about the day of this incident was that it appeared as though the equipment was not picking up any signals or clues at all. In fact, this had been going on for some days now, and as such, the team found that it left them in a state of silence. However, things would change suddenly when on that fateful night.
It's fading fast.
That large heat trace is fading quickly, which means that it was just there.
That thing was right up in that tree, and we were sitting right there.
The eerie silence experienced by the team would be utterly shattered when the previously quiet equipment suddenly came to life when it picked up some rather unusual energy signatures and movement patterns. What this told the team was that there must be some sort of a large presence nearby. How else could they explain the sudden activity being displayed by their equipment? Looking at the unusual readings that no member of the team had actually experienced in the past, it is understandable that the team was filled with fear and dread. After all, they were in the middle of nowhere, and it seemed as though something unidentifiable may be lurking around them in the darkness. Already they were certain that there were definitely some dark presences in this forest. This assertion was not an illusion. They had noticed the signs that there could actually be something sinister lurking in these woods. These signs came in the form of scattered animals and pieces of flesh that they found as they ventured deep into these dark woods. To them, it was truly a horrific scene to come across.
We are too.
Sounds good. Give me about 60-second count.
All right, sounds good.
Especially as their findings convinced them that they may have just come across the aftermath of a violent and turbulent confrontation. Aside from how savage the scene seemed, it also stood out to the members of Expedition Bigfoot, because the odd scene also almost looked as though something or someone just carried out a strange ritual. As you can imagine, Such findings only fed into the fear that was already coursing its way through many of the members of the Expedition Bigfoot team. After all, they were still trying to figure out exactly what they were dealing with while they were still in search of the legendary cryptid. As if this scene that they had just come across wasn't frightening enough, the team had been suffering from some of the strange things that they had come across as they navigated their way through the dark woods. If it wasn't the strange guttural sounds that echoed through the trees as they made their way through the forest, it is the inability to shake off the feeling that someone or something may be stalking them as they searched around for this strange creature. The entire experience became so unnerving that even some of the most experienced members of the team began to falter in their resolve as they ventured deeper into the woods. Although they felt that with every step they took, they were steadily making their way towards some unknown danger that may be waiting for them within these woods, they knew that they had no choice but to keep going. If they were going to bring this search for Bigfoot to an end, they were just going to have to bite the bullet. They just had to keep on going into these woods until they come across this legendary cryptid that is said to be lurking in such an environment. The shocking exit from the woods. As if that wasn't bad enough, the team found that they were in a spot of bother due to the fact that they realized that their state-of-the-art equipment was now acting up. Frustration must have been the word of the day for these exhausted Bigfoot hunters, because with their cameras glitching and their batteries draining faster than they would have thought, it is understandable that the team began to break down physically and mentally. With that came a sense of panic that threatened to ruin the resolve of the team. As a result, the team had no other choice but to plan their retreat from these woods. However, the sudden nature of the abandonment of their mission made people speculate about what exactly happened while they were out there.
It's coming from over there now. So you think whatever we heard up there is now down there?
Yeah, they're tracking us. Oh. They're coming around now.
They couldn't believe that it was just the faulty equipment that made the members of the Expedition Bigfoot team emerge from these woods without coming out with any proof that Bigfoot existed. People were so taken aback by this departure from the woods that they suspected that they may have actually fled from said woods because they had a frightening encounter with Bigfoot. As this could not be the most likely event that occurred, especially as finding the creature was the main reason they went into these woods in the first place, it has made others speculate that they may have come across something that may even be more terrifying than the legendary cryptid. Considering the fact that no one can really be sure about what happened apart from those members of the Expedition Bigfoot team, the rumors and stories have emerged almost at an endless rate as people do all they can to figure out what happened by themselves. Exciting evidence upon their return to the frightening search for the legendary cryptid. After some time, though, people dumped their search for answers when they learned that the members of the team had actually made their return to the wild in a bid to find the legendary cryptid. It must be said that these people must have regained their resolve because they still haven't overcome the fighting nature of their experience. As such, viewers found that each step into the woods was filled with fear and unease. However, even though they were shaken to their core, the team still had enough resolve to push on. They knew that this may be the only way they would ever bring the search for this strange creature to an end. What is fear when you have the chance to cement your legacy as the ones who found Bigfoot?
It's a big bull. These hills are completely alive with wildlife.
We've been at this for a couple hours, and so far it's just the elk.
Before long, this bravery and persistence was rewarded because they actually came across a truly extraordinary find. This amazing discovery came in the form of a massive human-like handprint in the ground in these woods. Now, when we say massive, we don't just mean that this handprint was big, we mean that this handprint was so huge that they had to state that they had never seen anything quite like this before. The only thing that they could conclude was that this handprint definitely did not belong to any human being, at least not a normal one. As such, you cannot blame them for coming to the conclusion that Bigfoot or something similar to the legendary cryptid was out there in these woods. As you can imagine, the team was left in a state of shock. Before long, though, this state of shock was replaced with one of excitement as they continued to study and take notes on what they were looking at in these woods. As they were still in this state of excitement, the team realized that they were also within proximity of a set of knuckle prints not too far away from their handprints. Looking at the size of these pieces of evidence that they came across, they were certain that these prints were left behind by something that was massive and powerful. What may even be more glaring about the handprints was that they may also be dealing with what could prove to be a dangerous creature. Considering how they may actually be in danger as they were out there, the team didn't seem too bothered. In fact, it seemed as though they were still on the hunt for this creature, as they would eventually stumble across some more discoveries. This is due to the fact that, as they scanned the area around them, they came across multiple sets of tracks. This was truly amazing to the members of the team, because they all thought that they would only be tracking one Bigfoot. Looking at the prints and tracks that they came across, they were left in a state of shock and excitement, because it looked as though they may be on the trail of more than one Bigfoot. Aside from the fact that the team was truly excited about the possibility of dealing with more than one Bigfoot during this expedition, they were also fascinated by the fact that these looked like they were some sort of blend of human-like and ape-like features. This was confirmed with the discovery of this skull that was believed to belong to a Bigfoot. This skull is being brought up because it also seemed to have features that could both be attributed to humans and other primates.
Gotten here, and already some really strange things are happening. We heard rocks falling from up top, and I saw what appeared to be eye shine reflected off the flashlight. It's almost as if something is watching us from above.
As they mulled over such facts, it soon became clear that the team seemed to be more excited by the fact that they were on the trail of multiple Bigfoots. This excitement seemed to fuel their resolve to push on with their search for the legendary creature, as it could prove to seal their legacy as the ones who brought this search to the end that it deserves. That said, despite such an exciting spin to the search, the team knew that they had to move with caution. Sure, they have gotten signs that they may be tracking one or more Bigfoots, but they still don't know exactly what they were dealing with while they were out there. Not only that, even if they were actually on the trail of the legendary cryptid and its friends, each and every one of such creatures may be powerful enough to snuff all the members of the team before they could even react. They had to make sure that they took the utmost care as they made this effort to track Bigfoot down. So close, yet so far. This search for the legendary cryptid soon took an exciting turn as the team amped up their search for the legendary cryptid. Who could blame them? As they came across one exciting clue after another, there is a good chance that they truly felt that they could be on the verge of bringing this search for the legendary cryptid to an end. With the handprints and other pieces of evidence that they had come across while they were out there, they were sure that they were actually on the trail of something large and powerful. What may be more fascinating about this creature is that there was the threat of how dangerous such a creature could be. Regardless of the looming danger that may be hovering over them as they searched for Bigfoot, we know that the team could not ignore the chance to bring this creature out of the darkness. Hoping to take advantage of being hot on these creatures' trail, the team saw it fit to deploy their drones. This was a great idea, because these drones were equipped with heat-sensing cameras. That way, they could pick up even the faintest signs of anything that may be making its way through these woods, even in the dead of night. This would prove to be a great idea, because before long, the operator of the drone informed the team that he had just picked up a strange shape in the wilderness. Excited, the operator also informed them that this strange figure was just a few miles away from them. Giddy with excitement, the team moved as quickly as they could in order to get to the strange figure that was picked up by the drone operator. Although they knew that catching up with this creature would be a difficult challenge due to the fact that it had something of a head start on them, they remained as determined as ever to get to whatever was out there. There was every chance that this was the legendary cryptid that they were all in search of. There was also the fact that they had to face the challenge of making their way through the difficult terrain. Add the fact that the drone operator informed the team that this creature was moving with alarming speed, and it may have been enough to put weaker people off. Luckily, we were dealing with the Expedition Bigfoot team, who were determined not to lose this creature. As they tried to track it down, they made sure that they took detailed pictures of its tracks. This was difficult enough for them, as we all know how rough and difficult such a terrain could be. Regardless of this, they knew they needed all the data they could get, so they made sure they took all the photos they could. After all, they had to make the most of the fact that they were so deep into what was often considered to be an inaccessible forest.
The species is having multiple lines of evidence. These tree structures, for example, we're finding all of these repeated throughout the forest. Now we're onto something.
He had just caught a glimpse of what seemed to be a human-like figure in the woods. What's interesting about what he just saw was that it seemed to move with impressive speed, despite how thick the forest is. This told them that they may still be on the trail of the creature that they had picked up with the drone earlier on. Excited, the team could not help but feel that they were on the verge of making that precious contact with the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot. Unfortunately for them, the creature proved to be too fast because right before they could get a closer look at the figure, It ran off in such a rapid manner that they would lose track of it. As devastating as such a setback could be for many, the Expedition Bigfoot team was able to use this as fuel to push on with their search for Bigfoot. If they could get so close to the creature, there was every chance that they could get even closer. Who knows? Maybe they could eventually find the creature if they work hard enough. Close call. Although they would suffer some setbacks despite coming so close to this strange figure in the woods, the team was making progress as they were collecting important data that could lead them to the legendary cryptid. For starters, there was the fact that the data that they had collected seemed to tell them that the creature, or potentially the group of creatures, may have been making use of a river they found as a natural travel route. With such a lead in mind, the team decided to focus their search for Bigfoot by sticking to the riverbanks in the hope that this would lead them to it. Things seemed to be great for a while as the team went down this river. However, when they noticed that it was getting darker, the tension in the air became noticeable by many of the members of the team. Not wanting to be discouraged by this loss of daylight, the team decided to make use of seismic sensors that they had with them. This was great, because now they could pick up the readings of anything that may be making its way through these woods. Looking to take advantage of this some more, Ronnie decided to make his way through an undergrowth. Maybe this move would help him get even more readings on the creature that may be out there.
What was that?
And when we did, immediately rocks start falling again from the same spot.
As great as this may seem, it became clear that they were not making as much progress as they would have liked. This was most likely due to the fact that the sun had gone down, leaving the team in a blanket of darkness that engulfed the woods in the dead of night. As discouraging as this may have seemed, things soon picked up when their drone operator informed Ronnie that he had just picked up the heat signal of something that was close to him. Scared and excited, Ronnie came to a halt as he waited for the drone operator to get a clearer picture of whatever was hovering close to his man. Although the image of whatever was out there seemed to be fuzzy, these images revealed that there was definitely something large close to their man. At that moment, the team seemed to finally realize how dangerous the situation was. This large creature seemed dangerously close to one of them. At that moment, the entire team seemed ready for what may come next. Alas, things will abruptly simmer down when the signal suddenly disappears, leaving the team frightened, relieved, and disappointed at the same time. Despite such feelings, the team pushed on into the woods. This would prove to be a great idea, because this would lead to the discovery of another set of massive footprints. Massive and showing details of an even bigger stride. It became clear to the team that they were truly dealing with a behemoth of a creature. Maybe, just maybe, this was the legendary cryptid they were all in search of. Maybe all these clues would eventually lead to the discovery of the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot.
We've set up this trail cam, which is, to me, probably the most important one along here. Why don't we make our way back to camp and see what happens so that we can get out there tomorrow?
From coming across some shocking clues in the middle of the forest as they pushed on with the search for this legendary creature to an encounter that proved to be too close for comfort, here's how the U.S. government shut down Expedition Bigfoot after they found it.
It looked like something standing, and then it just like ducked down. It wasn't on all fours.
I said we try to find a way to get up there.
The life of a cryptozoologist must be filled with so many twists and turns, it must leave their head spinning. Imagine dedicating your life to the study of the unknown, forever searching for even the mere proof of the existence of what could ultimately prove to be dismissed by their peers. Well, despite this constant disregard of their work, these cryptozoologists continue on with their search for the existence of legendary cryptid creatures that may be extinct or only seem to exist within the realm of folklore. This search even covers creatures that we fear may have succumbed to the cruel fate of extinction. We're talking about creatures such as the legendary Loch Ness Monster, the fearsome Chupacabra, or the ever-evasive yet domineering Yeti. That is why, when we hear that something may have caused some of these dedicated cryptozoologists to bring an end to their search for one of these legendary creatures, we have to consider what could be so frightening it made them bring an end to their quest. This tale began with the Expedition Bigfoot team, as they carried on with their search for the legendary cryptid known as Bigfoot. For years, the team followed the activities of seasoned investigators Bryce Johnson, the leader of the expedition who has been able to guide his team with the relevant data so that they could find this legendary creature. Together with the likes of Dr. Maria Mayer, the highly respected primatologist and wildlife expert who specializes in primate studies and challenging environments, as well as Russell Accord, the survivalist expert and ex-military veteran who was the best out there when it came to making your way through some of the toughest environments in the world. It felt that it was only a matter of time until the search for Bigfoot would ultimately come to an end.
Come on, show yourself. What in the heck? Thing was up in the tree. Something was up in that tree right there.
Add in the fact that Ronnie LeBlanc, the experienced Bigfoot researcher and author, was on their side as they searched for this creature in Bigfoot hotspots, such as Oregon, Kentucky, and Washington, and you couldn't really blame the viewers of this show from believing that this mystery would soon be solved once and for all. Well, that dream came to a shocking end when the team made a discovery deep within the forests of one of these Bigfoot hotspots. Imagine being out there when the usually dormant high-tech gear that they had with them suddenly started going crazy when it picked something up. As shocking as such a moment may be, there are those that speculate that this may actually mean that the mystery of Bigfoot may have finally come to an end. With that being said, we cannot help but feel that we are still being left in the dark as to what may have been discovered by these researchers on that fateful day. Could their discovery have been so unnerving that it forced these people who had dedicated their lives to the search for this legendary creature to abandon ship? If we take a step back a bit, we'd find that the team eventually came to the surprising decision to abandon their search for Bigfoot sometime after coming to the conclusion that there must be more than one Bigfoot that was on this particular island. Imagine the prospect of coming across more than one Bigfoot. That would be immense. Driven by this prospect, the team pushed into the wilderness on the island, powering on as they hoped to find the legendary cryptid. It didn't take long for them to get the first signs that this would be an uncomfortable expedition for everyone involved. Before long, the team saw that they were looking at something that was not for the faint of heart: the scattered remains of some unfortunate victim. In fact, the remaining bones and flesh of this poor creature told the team and those watching from home that this creature definitely spent the last moments of its life as a victim. As unnerving as their recent discovery was, this seemed to also give them the confirmation that they must have desired. At the very least, it told them that they were on the verge of making a noteworthy discovery. Driven by this, the team decided to push on by following this garish trail of blood and bones. As they pushed on with their search, the team soon found that they struggled to contain themselves when they found what seemed to be a non-human handprint in the mud. As soon as they laid their eyes on this strange handprint, the likes of Russell and Maria immediately knew what they had before them. To them, this was undeniable proof that Bigfoot really did exist. At the very least, this was proof that it was somewhere close by. As excited as they were able to acknowledge the magnitude of the moment. Once they were able to overcome the fact that they may have actually brought this centuries-old mystery and search for Bigfoot to an end, Maria's next move was to get hold of Ronnie. Excited by the prospect of the presence of at least a very powerful and dangerous creature being in the area, fingers crossed that it was Bigfoot, Ronnie immediately made his way to the island. Despite maybe seeing many similar things thanks to people who may have been searching for Bigfoot in the past, even he was shocked by the size of the handprint that he saw when he finally came across it. As impressive as this find was, he was even more impressed by the knuckle prints that they found nearby. This is because this told them that this creature that they were tracking moved in ways that were similar to both humans and apes. This may also mean that such a creature had traits of both sets of animals. As plain as this may sound, this meant a lot to the team because some time ago, Maria noticed that this supposed Bigfoot skull that she had in her possession also exhibited similarities with both humans and apes. With that skull and these recent findings in the forest at hand, you could not blame her for feeling that her analysis of the skull was validated. Now they can be more certain that Bigfoot may be some sort of hybrid creature. Well, at least this creature that they were tracking on the island may be this hybrid creature. As if this wasn't fascinating enough, things went up a notch when Russell noticed that there were two sets of tracks in the mud. This definitely meant that they were dealing with more than one of these creatures. Inspired by this information, the team knew that they had to keep on pushing. Maybe this could lead to something significant in the future. Eager to maintain a record of the information that they were coming across, the team took pictures of what they found before measuring them. Once they were done analyzing the data, the team went on to deduce that the creatures may have been making use of the river as a travel route. They speculated that this may be something they did to maintain a safe space from the world. In the alternative, they may have been using it as a source of sustenance as they survived in the valleys of the island. Inspired by these conclusions, the team started to develop the strategies that they would make use of as they made their way forward. With this in mind, they felt that it may be best to stick with their search for this mysterious creature in the valley. To them, this may be the best way for them to finally track these creatures, who were definitely doing their best to evade being spotted by the world. With that being said, the team knew that they had to make the most of their time and the resources that they had at their disposal, especially as both factors were considered to be limited. Eager to make some progress, the team decided to make use of their drones that were fitted with heat-sensing cameras to get a good view of the valley from above. While this was going on, the rest of the team that was based on the ground decided to survey the riverbanks to see what they could find there. As you can imagine, the atmosphere surrounding the team was one that was filled with excitement and anticipation. With Bryce at the helm of the drone operations as he coordinated the team with his radio, it was clear that the team was in sync as they carried on with their search for these evasive creatures. With any luck, the use of the technology that they had at their disposal, in combination with that basic human need to discover everything on this God-given planet, would help them bring the legend of Bigfoot to an end. With this in mind, you can only imagine the excitement that the team felt when the team's heat-sensing cameras fixed on the drone detected a blurry human-shaped figure making its way through the thick bushes in the valley. Could this be it? Could they actually be on the verge of discovering the legendary Bigfoot? Or were they just a set of delusional cryptozoologists out in the middle of nowhere on a fool's errand? As exciting as these developments were, the team slowly began to realize that the task at hand was much bigger than they had ever imagined. To be honest, it may have been fair enough for this to happen. After all, they were a small group of specialists hoping to overcome the massive challenges that presented themselves in the form of forces of nature as they tried to find this creature that has eluded many for hundreds of years. Well, whatever might happen in the future, there may be some positives in the fact that even if this creature eventually proves to be able to evade them and other cryptozoologists forever, at least they gave it their best shot, despite coming to terms with the fact that they may never be able to overcome the forces of nature in their bid to bring this search for Bigfoot to an end. It did not destroy their resolve to find this legendary creature. In fact, you'd find this improved their coordinated attempts to carry out this survey of the valley as diligently as possible. With Bryce and his drones in the air and the rest of the guys surveying the ground below, there was no way that they wouldn't be able to achieve some level of success. At the very least, this would have helped them perform an extensive survey of the 20,000-acre valley that was flanked by 3,000-foot mountains. Maybe the job was carried out so well because each member of the team knew what was on ground. They knew what they were bound to achieve if they were just able to pull this feat off. You can't really blame them, though. Most of us would put in the shift of their lives if they knew that they were on the verge of finding the legendary Bigfoot. As they pushed on, the team did experience some doubt in what if they were not actually tracking Bigfoot? What if they were on the trail of something else? In the end, they had to process the thought that this search may even only end up raising more questions than answers. They had to wrap their minds around not only the scientific implications of what they were searching for, but also the ecological ramifications of this quest that they had dedicated their lives to. In the end, they may even have to process the thought of whether or not it may be ethical to disturb the peace of this creature just because we want to bring this burning curiosity to an end. As they came to terms with these thoughts, the team also came to terms with this constant struggle between human curiosity and the hidden dimensions of this world that we live in. As they juggle these complex thoughts in their head, they are jerked out of this state of contemplation when they notice a sudden movement in the thick, dark forest. Amazingly, this turned their attention to this target that was even more hidden within the realms of these bushes. As it got darker, the team was assisted by the presence of the drone. This helped them notice something that added another twist in this search for Bigfoot. Turns out this discovery was not too far away from Mireya and Russell. The team was able to deduce this thanks to the heat-sensing drones that Bryce was monitoring. Once he noticed this development, He immediately warned Russell and Maria that this mysterious figure was making its way towards the glacier. Excited by this news, the pair decided to make the quick adjustment to their path. At least that way, they may be able to actually come across these creatures that were detected by Bryce and his heat-sensing drones. As this was happening, the team found that Ronnie was making his way through a thick wooded area in the other part of the valley. Despite how dark and quiet the woods were at that point in time in the night, Ronnie was not too upset about the fact that he had to creep his way around in the darkness. This was probably due to the fact that he knew that he was getting some sort of help soon. Apparently, Bryce had informed him that he was going to redirect the drone to Ronnie's location. This would be done so that it could help Ronnie with his visibility problems out there in the woods in the dead of night. As this was going on, Bryce must have been shocked when the drone and its heat-seeking camera picked something up in the woods. Perhaps a bit too close to comfort to Ronnie out there in the woods, the team must have been worried about the fact that they didn't know if this was something or someone. Initially, these worries were warranted, especially as these images were blurry and they didn't help the team deduce what must have been out there. However, as some time went on, the team found that the cameras on the drones were able to focus on Ronnie's location. As this occurred, a clear pattern of movement emerged. This undoubtedly caught the attention of Bryce and every other member of the team. How could you blame them? The thermal images that were picked up by the camera told them that whatever they were looking at was making movements at speeds that were not normal at all, at least not for a human being. Eager to get a closer look at what they were witnessing, the drone tried to close in. Unfortunately, just as they got that much closer, the team would find that this figure would suddenly disappear. As annoying as this must have been for most of the members of the team, Ronnie found that this only increased his curiosity. Driven by this level of curiosity, Ronnie decided that he was going to go even deeper into this forest. Hopefully, this would help him come across at least one of these creatures that were lurking within the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, this could even be the legendary Bigfoot. Thankfully, it wasn't only Ronnie who felt this way. Eager not to lose the scent, Bryce realized that it may be in the best interest of this search for Bigfoot for him to join Ronnie out there in the woods. While Bryce was doing what he could to get to Ronnie, Ronnie was still trying to trace this elusive creature. These efforts proved to pay off when he came across these large footprints in the forest. You could only imagine how exciting this discovery was, especially when these massive footprints told him that there was definitely some sort of massive creature out there in the wilderness with him. As fascinating as these large footprints are, Ronnie had the presence of mind to notice other clues that he came across during this discovery. This clue came in the form of the broken branches that were found in and around the footprints. To Ronnie, this told us a lot about the size and the strength of the creature that was lurking in the darkness. Another clue was the unusually large distance between the footprints. This told Ronnie that the creature must maintain an extraordinarily large stride as it made its way across the land. Hoping for some more information, Ronnie made use of the handheld thermal camera that he had in his possession to scan the area. He was hoping that this would help him find this creature. It would be the case if the creature was still close by. Unfortunately for Ronnie, he'd find that the thick grass and foliage would prove too difficult to overcome. They were just too thick for him to power through, and as such, his view of the area was not going to get any better without some sort of assistance. Funnily enough, this didn't stop Ronnie from trying. Instead, you'd find that he continued with this search, desperate to come across something that would lead to this discovery. Well, you can only get what you ask for, and soon Ronnie would find that he would be left shocked when he found this strange figure moving towards him in the dead of night. Initially, the frightened man thought that he may be in the presence of Bigfoot. As exciting as this may be, Ronnie was just going to have to do with the fact that he was only looking at Bryce. After overcoming what could only be described as disappointment, Ronnie's morale must have been boosted by the fact that they could now work together to survey the area. Maybe they could actually track this creature together. After all, two heads are better than one. Encouraged by the chance of making some sort of progress, Ronnie and Bryce fought through the dead of night to continue on with their search for this legendary cryptid. Hoping to make this progress, they found that they were trying to overcome some challenging areas in the woods. This proved to pay off in a way because they soon found themselves in more familiar areas of the trail. This was an interesting development for them, especially because the creature that they were tracking, be it Bigfoot or not, also made use of this more defined trail. As they made their way down the trail, they came across another blood-curdling clue, the remains of a recently slain animal. As we all know, this could have been enough to put off some people that did not have the constitution for such a gory scene. Fortunately, Bryce and Ronnie are made of sterner stuff. Together, they were able to maintain their focus. Knowing that they had to get some sort of data out of this, the pair gathered themselves well enough for them to analyze the bloody scene. A quick look at the mess before them told them that they were looking at the carcass of a recently eliminated elk or a deer. As they continued their analysis of remains before them, the team was soon interested by the snapped rib bone that they found within the mess. It made them ponder about the force that may have been used to snap those ribs to bits. This turned their attention to the historical data, which showed that early humans must have broken bones so that they could gain access to the marrow within the bones. With this in mind, it told us that this creature may have some similarities with early humans. A frightening thought to process. Hopefully, these guys at Expedition Bigfoot would help us bring this mystery to an end. Maybe one day they will return to help us find the legend that is Bigfoot. From noticing strange creatures that may be lurking in the forest in the dead of night, to finding the garish remains of unfortunate creatures which tell us that there may be something powerful and strangely human-like in the forests, here's how the U.S. authorities shut down Expedition Bigfoot after a terrifying discovery.